Welcome to the Painting of the Week podcast, where we look at some of the most significant paintings throughout history. Introducing your hosts, Phil Grabsky and Laura Bentham.
I'm so happy to be doing this painting this week.
Okay.
So we have Margaret to thank for this week's Painting of the Week. So thank you, Margaret.
Yeah, I love Margaret already.
We asked you, our faithful and lovely podcast listeners, to make some selections. Not that we were running out, but we thought that it would be interesting for you to make some suggestions, and also undoubtedly you would suggest paintings that we would never think of. And that's absolutely the case here, because I would never have thought of this. This is The Lady of Shalott by William Holman Hunt. And I thoroughly recommend that for those of you who are seated with a phone or a laptop or something, computer, go to the seventh-art.com website and go to the podcast where you can have a look at the painting. And it's, well, Laura, over to you.
I could. We've got the giggles on this one, we really have. Well, yesterday.
It's colourful.
And I just looked at his name. I asked a few people. I said, I'm doing William Holman Hunt this week. No one knew him. I was like, that's handy. No one knows him. And I thought, okay, I'll pop the painting in. I don't know what I was expecting. I was not expecting this. And I was not expecting where it took us.
I know. Well, isn't that fantastic, though, that
yeah.
Because there's always a danger if we're selecting that we're going to select paintings that we know.
Yeah.
So a Bruegel or a Monet or a Manet and in fact, we've had a lot of response to this suggestion. I mean, a lot. And some of the paintings are really interesting.
I'm really panicking.
So
I'm really panicking. I hope everyone knows.
The next few months we'll be in the library.
I'm going to have to.
But we're doing it for your benefit, everybody. This is we're doing it for you. So you don't have to.
Yes. Yeah.
We've talked in the past about. I remember you said, "Should we do a painting that we don't, you don't like so much?"
Yes.
And we've struggled a bit because I actually like so much art. But I'll begin this podcast by saying I don't really like this very much.
Oh, don't you?
No.
Okay.
But I think you do.
I love it.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's.
I really did. When it came up, I was like, this is lovely.
Good.
I like her.
What do you like about
the
it?
colours? 100% the colours, and I love her clothing and her hair. But after doing these podcasts and how you get into a painting, and we've said it before, even with just having an audio tape on going around the museum, you would never possibly be able. You'd be standing there for about 2 hours after what is going on in this painting.
Well, okay. So first of all, there's a real value and honesty in just saying I like the painting, without having to start analysing what are those drawings in the background and who's the guy plucking the fruit and what's the story and why is she entwined in twine. That in some senses that's secondary. If that first visceral reaction is I like it, it makes me feel happy and I like the colours and great.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an argument that in some ways what we do by zooming in either actually in a film with a camera or even when we do these podcasts and we identify details, you can make the argument you're doing a bit of a disservice to a painting which is there to be seen and reacted to as a whole. I mean, this as a whole, this is it's an impressive painting and it's an overwhelming painting. For me, it's kind of messy.
Okay.
And my eye is not, I don't really know what to look at. And there's obviously so much symbolism and I've got to understand so much. Now, it has encouraged me. This would be a painting that in a gallery I would go, that I don't get it, too complicated, and I'd walk past.
Okay.
So something like this is good because it's made me stop and look at it and a little bit of this period I know about, and a little bit I didn't, and I looked it up, and so...
And I panicked. And texted Phil, what's happening?
And I said, Laura, down to you. Okay, well, maybe we should explain a little bit of this. Well, William Holman Hunt is a British artist, and he is what's known as a pre-Raphaelite. So people are always quite keen to group artists together in kind of generic names. So we talk about Monet, Manet, Renoir being the Impressionists. Now, as we've talked before on the podcast, they were very different personalities. Their art's very different. Some of them didn't like the term. So it's a danger, but sometimes it helps us by having these groups. Pre-Raphaelites, I've always found that a slightly odd name, which they gave themselves.
Yeah.
And
we were discussing it, me and my husband, this morning in bed. It was a bit weird.
Well, no,
it's a bit too much information, but he's like, well, how can someone be a form of pre-Raphaelite brotherhood?
So the whole thing was that they were looking back to the art that came before Raphael.
Yeah.
So I guess in particular 13th and 14th century Italy. It needs an art historian with more knowledge than I have to understand how that is reflected in this painting, because I don't quite get it. To me, I mean, I can often spot a pre-Raphaelite painting because of the way in which it's painted and the use of colour and the subject matter, and but I wouldn't automatically think, oh, that reminds me of 13th century or 14th century Italian painting. Yeah. So. But that's where the name comes from. This particular painting, I do know, is this one is in Connecticut, in the Hartford, in the Wadsworth Athenaeum. It's called, in Hartford, Connecticut.
Have you been there?
I haven't, but I have been to the Manchester Art Gallery. I love Manchester. It's a great art gallery, because they have a smaller version there.
Yeah.
And which was his preparatory study for this. And I mean, there's no way you can do a painting like this without doing a lot of preparatory studies. You're not just going to sit down and start painting a canvas.
No.
And it's called The Lady of Shalott. And I guess there are kind of jokes we could say about, onions. So let's.
Well, Matt did that straight away. Obviously.
Okay. Well, let's unpeel this painting.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, what we know, you and I have done some research. What we now know is that it's one of those paintings which is actually telling the story. It's visualizing a literary story.
Yes.
In this case, Tennyson's 1833 poem, which obviously deals with the Lady of Shalott. So.
Which once again raises more questions than it gives answers.
Well, so King Henry, not King Arthur, King Arthur's brother, and in the possibly mythical castle or, town of Camelot, which some have thought was Tintagel, Cornwall, others have said it's Cardiff, Wales, others have said it's Somerset, others said Winchester. Anyway.
Right. Yeah, could be anywhere.
We know there was King Arthur, and he had his round table and he had his knights. So
yes.
Lancelot being one of them, and Galahad was another, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, yes.
And his wife was
Guinevere.
So now this depicts the scene where and Tennyson's poem tells this story. So this woman is condemned to live in, or cursed really, to live in a tower, which I think in the poem is described as being four-walled and grey. And she's not able to leave the tower or look out of the window. What she does have, she was very cruel, is that big round mirror that you can see at the back of the painting. That's not a window, it's a mirror. And I suspect if we looked carefully, I'd imagine Holman Hunt has been a bit smart and kind of made it slightly distorted to reflect one of those kind of mirrors, round mirrors. Anyway, now she's only allowed to look outside through this mirror, which seems harsh. I mean, I don't know what the difference is between looking out the real window, which is obviously where we the audience, in theory, standing where the window is. I mean, clearly it's impossible, but anyway. And in the mirror, she sees Sir Lancelot. Now, Sir Lancelot, you can see on the horse. I don't know whether he knows that the Lady of Shalott's in there, but he's obviously come by. He's got his two buglers or trumpeters kind of saying, "Hey, here I am." And he seems to be doing a nice little 360 turn, and he's got his sword out, and she can't help herself but look out of the window. At which point she decides to leave the tower and make her way to Camelot, presumably because she thinks that's where he's going, I guess.
Yeah.
But because of the curse, she dies en route. So from this picture here, she doesn't have long to live.
I have to say, everyone knows me, so I'm not. There's no surprise. Didn't know the painting. I never really looked at a Tennyson poem at all. Obviously, I know him, which is handy. But the poem, if people do get time, is actually really lovely.
Is it?
Understandable.
Yeah.
Because I understood it all as well. I understood what he was writing. I watched a little video, which was actually live. It was like a performance piece of exactly what was going on.
So is the whole poem just about this one event?
Yeah.
Okay.
And how she's cursed into the tower and to do this weaving. I don't know whether she was to do the weaving, but this is what she was doing. She had weaving.
Well, you can see the tapestry she's doing there, can't you?
And then, and if she looks out of the window, that's when she finds out what the curse is. She realises the mirror cracks, and then that's the curse is she wasn't meant to look out of the window.
Oh, she didn't know until that point?
No.
Oh.
And then she realises that...
Well, she must have known because she's halfway through. She's done a lot of that.
No, it kind of...
Anyway, okay.
Maybe, actually, I'll tell you what.
It probably doesn't.
Because people are great for doing this, they could write in the comments if she knew or not. There's so many questions. So many questions is, well, why was she cursed in the first place? Who is she? Is she the Lady of the Lake? And things like that. So
there are 4 lines that I did note down.
Okay, good.
Out flew the web and floated wide. The mirror cracks from side to side. The curse has come upon me, cried the Lady of Shalott.
Maybe we should do a reading one day. That'd be good. But it was really lovely to read it and understand it.
Well, great.
There's a few poems, I'll be honest with you, I'll be like, well, I'm completely lost. I haven't got a clue. But this is really lovely. And I thought the painting itself was really quite something.
So it'd be interesting. I wonder whether when Holman Hunt painted this, because you've always got to think about, as I've said before, there's always 3 elements to a painting. There's the subject matter, there's the artist, and there's the viewer. So I wonder whether Holman Hunt thought at that time that his audience would know the work of Tennyson. I mean, we could probably, if I was an artist, I would probably be quite comfortable painting something from Hamlet or Macbeth and think actually most of my audience would recognise the 3 witches or Laertes and how. Now, maybe for many of us now, Tennyson seems quite distant, but at the time of doing this painting, which was between 1886 and 1905, it's 50, 60 years since Tennyson, but maybe they taught Tennyson at grammar schools and,
But I think it was one of their values, wasn't it, for the Pre-Raphaelite brotherhood? It was attention to detail.
Yeah.
Masses of detail.
Yeah, well, clearly.
Brilliant colours, which, yes. And then rendition of literary subjects.
Yeah, well, so it's ticking all those boxes, isn't it?
So, yeah. And also he wrote that, I don't know, Tennyson.
To me, it's almost like it's
I'm surrounded by paper.
I mean, it'd make a wonderful jigsaw, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah, it'd be brilliant.
Because it's like, I wonder where does
Better than the baked bean one.
where does that ball of yarn go? But it's almost, I mean, you look at a Caravaggio painting, then there's so much going on. There's so many levels, and that often is the case with paintings. But this one, it's just so full. And you kind of feel like you want to know. You just have to have so many. You need like a book explaining the shoes. Why do the shoes look like that? And they seem to be made of wood. And why is she not wearing them? And why is she entwined? And do the colours have a significance? And why is he picking fruit? And the tapestry is obviously the Holy Grail, but who's carrying it? And then on the left, you've got, I guess it's Mary and Jesus, and there's lots of iconography in that. I don't know, maybe I'm being unfair to suggest it makes me work too hard.
Yeah.
On the other hand...
I don't know, I feel I'm the other way this week on this.
No, good.
I've loved the work.
Good.
Because I think I was saying, and I was looking at it, because he was quite a religious man, Hunt.
Was he? Okay.
So they're saying there's a bit of Christian symbolism in it.
Well, yeah.
With the shoes off. That in the Bible, when people walked on holy ground, they would walk with bare feet. Okay.
Well, still have that today, don't you? In mosques and things like that.
And then the irises. Now I'm going to have to find my piece. Oh, here we are. 2 purple irises associated with faith, hope and wisdom. And then I think what I said to you, well, then you could start looking at the painting as a woman. Maybe she felt trapped, completely off subject now. That then, if women do something a little bit rebellious, do they then get what they want? Not necessarily, because she ended up,
I think,
dying.
So I think the whole story about the woman in a tower is actually something that needs to be explored. And maybe that's more about Tennyson than about the painting. But still, Holman Hunt's chosen to paint it. This, Rapunzel stuck in a tower, throwing down her hair to try and escape. So here's a woman that's trapped in a tower, and of the moment of release, she dies.
Yes.
So what is all that about? And
well, women did feel quite trapped at the time. Victorian.
I'm sure.
I'm assuming.
I wonder whether there's something about whether Holman Hunt is actually passing comment on creativity in some way. I mean, she is trying to create a beautiful circular tapestry. You can see, that thing around her legs is what the tapestry's been stretched on. Yeah. Let's assume it's going to be a very beautiful work. And she's been distracted from her creativity, in this case by a man, but whatever. And it seems to me that the distraction has immediately caused her to get entangled, and everything's now a mess. And then we know the story, which is that the mirror cracks. Is that the cracking mirror, by the way, at the back? Is that the crack? Okay, so that's the cracked mirror. And then she goes outside, and immediately she dies. Which is harsh, obviously. Yeah. But I wonder whether that's I mean, maybe we're seeking meaning where it doesn't exist. But I wonder whether he's making some reference to just let us be artists and don't distract us with what's outside our gilded protective towers.
Oh, okay. We're getting deep now.
I don't know. But I mean,
I like it.
I know a little bit about the history of this painting, which is quite funny, which is it wasn't his idea to paint it. He was prompted by another artist called Thomas Creswick. And Creswick said, I want you to do me, I'll commission you to do a painting, and he gave him 2 or 3 ideas, including basing it on a poem of Tennyson. So Holman Hunt went off and did some preparatory drawings, some sketches, and he went back to see this guy, Creswick. And Creswick looked at the sketches and said, I have no idea what you're talking about. I never suggested you did anything for me, and certainly not like this. And he said, and to be honest, if this is the standard of your work, I don't want anything of yours ever. So it was,
That's brilliant.
it's quite a knockback, really, for poor old Hunt.
Yeah.
Luckily, somebody else came along and said, "No, you crack on. I'll." But it was, he was seeking a commission for it.
He might not have felt good about himself after that.
Well, that's quite.
Yeah.
It'd be like me going to a commissioning editor and them saying, "Yeah, well, we'd be quite interested in a film about Georgia O'Keeffe," and I go away and come back with development ideas and maybe a trailer, and they say, "No, joking,
Yeah.
we never suggested that at all. Go away." And in fact, they never come back on the basis of that trailer. We never want to work with you.
No. No.
Quite hard to bounce back from
Yeah,
that.
no, definitely. Yeah.
But
I've lost my confidence already.
But this was
thinking about it.
But I mean, he does. This is something that it was popular because you were mentioning that somebody else had
Yeah, I was just looking at
painted this too.
John William Waterhouse, and he's done 3. So he's really taken the poem, but his one is the most famous one of the Lady of the Shalott in the boat at the end.
Okay.
Which, when that did come up, I had seen that before.
Yeah.
But once again, I didn't know the story at all. And actually, I think if I had walked past this painting and not known now Tennyson's poem, and even just a little bit of it, even when we talked earlier, I was just like, well, this is really lovely, Phil. I'm in uncharted territory here.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really, really nice. I really enjoyed sitting there yesterday looking at this, at the painting, looking at the poem. I've never looked at it at all.
I mean, if you look at the individual elements of it, it is actually pretty impressive.
It's gorgeous.
There's probably a technical term for that kind of water.
I know, I've got my eye on that.
Silver
But
water dispenser.
while we're looking at that water dispenser, it's not your average one, is it? You haven't got one of those in your office, have you?
No.
It's a shame.
We don't.
Look at those lovely birds. What are they doing then? The sort of gold.
Well, again, there's something about. Birds are not normally a sense of freedom.
No.
So maybe this is the moment she's got a moment of freedom.
And they're heading towards the window because you can see the light of the window. Okay.
They've probably come in to have some of that water.
I didn't even notice the birds until we were sitting here now.
But they're.
And I do love her hair, sort of floating upwards towards what looks like another window at the top.
Yeah.
It is.
I find her left hand a bit odd. It's almost back to front. It's almost completely twisted, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, no, really. Yeah, it is.
I guess the idea is she's trying to free herself of the twine. And then the top, what she's wearing.
Yeah, it's a bit.
It almost feels like it's somehow supposed to be reflecting nature in some way.
Yeah.
It feels like feels like a hedge. But
that's why we're not fashion critics. It's like a hedge.
But it's quite. It's bold. It's a bold choice.
I love it.
Particularly she's living on her own.
Yeah, she's probably embellished it. But I mean, the sleeves are brilliant. I love it. I really love this painting.
The light on the dress is very nice. Actually, I like the. I do like the. Again, I'm sure there's a technical term for the. The
loom.
Well, the
circular.
Yeah.
I've never seen one like that though.
No.
But actually, even then, by the back of her sort of feet, those 3 obviously they're bits of yarn again, but the colours are slightly. They don't really fit in, do they? But they still look great. They almost look wrong, those colours. Well, I really, This one was. We're on a different level now, Phil. We really are. But I think everyone should also look. I think they'd like to look at John William Waterhouse's versions. There's another one identical. The scene's identical. So I don't know if people would compare them and say which one they would prefer.
Yeah.
But his painting was slightly more duller, I think, in the colours.
I mean, the Pre-Raphaelites are very popular. I did go to an exhibition. Where was that? It was a Pre-Raphaelite exhibition. Must have been Tate Britain, I guess.
Right.
I can't remember. And only 2-3 years ago. It was absolutely packed.
Was it?
Absolutely packed. And there was a lot of emphasis on who the models were and the relationship between the models and the artists. And I mean, it's obviously, there's obviously something about the Pre-Raphaelites that does really appeal.
Yeah. Well, it's
I mean, it's definitely. It is. I mean, as I say, I'm not changing my opinion, but it's certainly a painting that justifies, getting over what for some of us or for me might be a slight reluctance to engage with it because it seems so complicated and I don't know the clues. But then that's often the way with religious paintings.
Well, that's where I always get a bit, I just would be disappointed if I'd have just stood in front of it, gone, oh, yeah, lovely, nice dress, like the tea urn, and off I went and did not. and didn't then know what, and I hope I can retain all this information to talk about Pre-Raphaelite brotherhood and things like that and Alfred Lord Tennyson, because I feel a little bit more knowledgeable today than I did yesterday.
Well, then that comes back to then the question about whether you can truly appreciate this painting without knowing what the symbolism is, what the story is.
I think you could appreciate it, but I think you would be more fulfilled.
Yeah.
Because you know the rest of it.
Yeah.
It was so lovely to learn to do that poem.
I mean, there is a reaction to colour, isn't there? I had a very interesting conversation actually earlier on today about colour with somebody who was talking about how they'd had a conversation with an artist about the weight of colour.
Oh.
And that was quite interesting. He was saying that, for example, if you think about a Mondrian and you've got a red and a blue to one side and the other side you might have yellows, but the red and blue might only be 1/3 of the frame and the other 2/3 of the picture frame are yellow, predominantly yellow. And the suggestion being that blue and red weigh more than yellow.
Oh, I love that.
So, people might be raising their eyebrows and thinking, what on earth is he talking about? But this idea that colour it's not equal. I think also...
That's a great conversation.
It's often, that trick that you can play with the eye where you might just be black and white, but you look at something and it immediately looks like, say, the silhouette of a person. But actually, when you're told it's actually a vase, but the vase is the white...
Oh, yeah.
You thought the black was the subject being... Yeah. Anyway, it's the same thing with colour. I mean, it is amazing. We look at this and we immediately recognise everything as, human form with the dress and the twine and the this and the that. It's just a flat canvas.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it's an amazing visual trick that this guy's paying off.
It's so good.
And, of course, the mirror's giving us that real depth into the landscape and the river on which she dies, but it's also, again, gives us distance, and it's very accomplished. I mean...
I suspect now there's going to be loads of paintings that are associated with poems. There must be loads. I mean, I'd never really thought about it before until...
Well, the interrelationship between literary stories, and painting... What would be very interesting would be, and I guess if you were making a film and talking about this, is what soundtrack would you put over this? Now, again, there's an argument to have silence, but one of the things I have to take into account as a filmmaker is that it's very hard to achieve silence. I might have silence on the film, but if you're sitting in a cinema...
Yeah.
It's very unlikely to be silent. So,
especially if I'm there.
Especially if you're there with that huge box of popcorn. So that's going to destroy any kind of relationship to the painting if somebody's sitting next to you eating crisps.
No, I wouldn't do that.
But let's imagine we've decided to put some kind of... Now, you could have natural effects. So you could have you wouldn't actually hear the sound of a babbling brook, although actually the stream is just outside the window, perhaps. But anyway, you could have the sound of water and birds.
Yeah, birds.
That's probably the only thing she'd be hearing. I mean, you could put a horse on, but that would be maybe a little over the top.
Yeah.
You could have the trumpeters. They're obviously making sound.
Just have sort of medieval music.
Or you go period, but then the period in theory is the time of King Arthur. So, that's a particular type of music. I don't think you'd go contemporary to Howard Hunt. That doesn't really make much sense.
I wouldn't.
Or you go something that's very, kind of understated contemporary to us.
Yeah.
But the choice of music would make a huge, or the soundscape would make a huge difference to how you react to this painting and how long you could look at it for, I would suggest.
Well, now I love this, and I would be there for a long time. I'd get an extra cup of tea to go and sit at it. And I really am pleased. Is it Margaret?
Yeah, well done, Margaret.
Because, thank you, Margaret, because I've really enjoyed the last 2 days doing this. And now, waiting for the next dinner party, next quiz questions.
No one will come round, Laura, because they know.
No one's going to invite anything ever.
They know. As soon as you sit down.
Oh.
Let's say, did you read the Tennyson second edition?
I'm a new woman. I actually have got a poetry book on my shelf, and I did get it out, so there you go. I've got a poetry book.
Well, there you go.
And I do like poetry. But there you are. I never, ever... I had no idea.
Okay, well, thank you for listening. Have a look at the Pre-Raphaelites. And obviously, Holman Hunt, this clearly isn't his only work, so have a look at what else he did. If you fancy it, read the poem by Tennyson. I would also like to enjoin you to, or encourage you to, recommend the podcast, if you like, to others. That would be very nice. And certainly to sign up to the Seventh Art Productions newsletter, where you'll get lots of news and information about all the sorts of things we're up to, including the forthcoming exhibition on screen films. And by all means, visit the shop, and plenty of things to stream and download and buy DVDs and all the rest of it. And fridge magnets. Can I just say, if anyone's at a loss, preparing for next Christmas already, get in there early.
Yes.
Fridge magnets.
Yeah.
Holman Hunt's not one of them, I have to say, but there's Frida Kahlo, Michelangelo.
You might have to up your game again.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe do some fridge magnets to do with the podcast, Phil.
Maybe we do fridge magnets which are based on actual paintings that have a vegetable in the title. Or maybe it's a quiz. So we have
let's do a quiz.
We have an onion.
Yeah.
Which has the female thing on it, and you got to guess the painting.
Totally.
That'd be the Lady of Shalott.
That's it. We're done. We're in. I love a quiz.
Well, we're going to go now. We're going to think about that. And see you next time.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Painting of the Week podcast. For more information, please visit our website at seventh-art.com or contact us by emailing info@seventh-art.com. See you next time.